So in terms of the project lifecycle, if you really look at the overall, you can talk about any project. It could be a product development project. It could be IT project. It could be infrastructure development. It could be any type. Basically, if you look at the overall lifecycle of that particular initiative, a program, if you look at it, this x-axis is all about the kind of activities or the life cycle of that, and then the y-axis is about the completion in terms of what is the closure, how close is that to the kind of completion at that point of time. If you look at it, I just put it so that you guys can understand. So there's a pre-project, a pre-sale stage. That's where again we get as BAs, we get involved. It's not always that we actually get involved after the project comes in. So we can do a feasibility analysis. That's where we do the cost benefit analysis, and then we kind of come up with some kind of overall whether the particular project is fitting in within the context of our own organization's business strategy or our own organization's product goals. And then we work alongside the solution architects and the other development team to come up with a proposed solution architecture. We create proposals and we deliver this RFX as what we call it. It could be a request for a proposal. It could be a request for quotation. It could be a request for information, RFI, RFP, RFT. It could be a proposal or a solution in terms of giving a response to the tender. So we actually give tender to these kind of suppliers and things like that. So all of these are basically the RFX as what we call request for X, could be proposal, anything. All of these we are involved even before the actual project is initiated. So bear in mind that business analysts don't really come always at the time of the project initiation. It could be much before that. And then when the project gets started, and then we don't even have developers, we don't even have architects, we don't have anybody else. At that point of time, we have the BAs coming in there, trying to understand from the stakeholders' perspective. And this is what I've been doing all along my last 20 years, almost 20 years, where I actually work with the senior stakeholders, with the senior management, with the business people, with the operations people, with technology, also working alongside with different individuals, different roles, technology, operations, customer relations, marketing, sales, trying to work alongside all these different stakeholders and understanding their perspective, their expectations from this particular project. At that point of time, there is no clarity what this project is about. They only have the high level business goals, woolly business goals. And then we as business analysts step in there, kind of understand what is it that they are trying to expect out of this project, and set the roadmap for that. The BAs kind of lay the roadmap for the whole thing. And then we actually kind of work alongside the project managers. I think perhaps the only other person who could come in at that stage is the project manager. So the project manager would come in, and we work with the project managers to kind of understand the resources required, the hard and the soft resources, people, time, and all those stuff. And then we come up with planning, high-level architecture. And then the later part is, once this is all done, then we actually start getting into the, dive deep into the actual requirement. That's where we actually kind of start with the requirement planning, whether should we follow the agile methodology or should we follow waterfall? What kind of platform should we adopt on the technical side? Who are the kind of resources that we should get into our team? Who are our customers? Where are they based? How can we engage with them? What kind of communication plan? So all of these, what kind of documents, as Uzma rightly mentioned just now, are we going to follow the user story kind of documentation methodology using Jira or some other tool like Trello? Or are we going to actually kind of follow a waterfall methodology where we're going to implement the FRS BRD kind of a thing, where we write the requirements and then have a sign off? So how are we going to get the sign off from the customers? All of these actually are kind of established at this stage. In terms of communication as well, how are we going to communicate and engage with the customers on the requirements? So do they have access to Jira? Do they have access to our platform? How can we actually get them to review what we are writing up and then give the sign off? How can we collaborate on that? So all of these are done. And then comes the acceptance test planning and the cases. How can we actually have the customer acceptance testing? The UAT is what we call user acceptance testing. So start writing up the planning for that. How can we write the test cases? What format? They given when then Gherkin statements would do. Okay, can we use a tool like Cucumber? Can we use something else? Selenium? What kind of tool should we use? Or can we just use Jira? Within the story, you can write these things. So all of these decisions are taken at this stage, and we are actually kind of, again, getting a whole framework ready. And then, as rightly mentioned by Uzma, it's all about traceability. It's maintaining the traceability from the requirements, which are pretty high level, all the way down to, we are actually getting into the brass tacks, into the nitty-gritties of how that requirement is actually kind of getting implemented in the development. So if you could just jog your memory, we're talking about the what, then the who, why, when, where, and then finally the how. So now we're actually, this whole transition, this journey is now moving on from what to how. So the problem to the solution. So we're slowly getting the transition, getting the journey. There's the whole journey and how we are helping the team as BAs. And when it comes to the architecture, we're now talking about the architecture, getting into the, whether it is enterprise architecture, business architecture, solution architecture, whatever it is, technical architecture, all of the different types of architecture variants, we would work alongside with the architects, making sure that they have a grip on the requirements. So we communicate the requirement, we specify the requirements in such a way that these people understand what is required in the first place. So it is our duty as BAs to do that. So we communicate, we specify, we kind of prioritize working with the business owners, product owners, to make sure that these are the things that the architects need to look at, and then they can propose a solution or set of solutions that would help address the requirements. So that's where, again, we can work with the team in creating some kind of prototypes, POCs, proof of capability, proof of competency. So we can create some kind of quick win, quick fix or quick win solutions. We can do some kind of quick prototyping, either on the technology using different tools or just using paper mock-ups on the paper, write some stuff, wireframes, sketches. All of these, again, will help us actually go to the next level of the user experience. And then obviously we'll come into the definition of the non-functional aspect of it. And this is where I really think that we as BAs need to take more ownership. I can tell you a story where one of the projects that I really worked on, I mean, that was long back, about 12 years ago, where this was actually a client based in here who are into the assessments. So basically they're, this kind of company creates a set of questionnaires for the candidates who are just out of universities to understand which career suits them. So they asked us to create this kind of a platform, which is really, again, movement from the existing system to a new platform, new set of tools. Now the challenge was well accepted. We have taken on, we created the solution using .NET platform. It's working fine. And then the day comes where we delivered the solution to the client, and then the client just outright rejected. You know why it was rejected? Because the reporting system that we created was actually generating a report. One report, it used to take about 25 minutes, whereas the current solution actually is taking two days. So in terms of the performance, what they're expecting, so that's when they actually got the act together. They created another set of non-functional requirements saying, this is a performance requirement. This is the kind of mean time to respond. This is the time of mean time to fix. All of these things they created, they actually shared with us then, and found that this report has to come out exactly 3 minutes after the test is taken and has to be sent to the hiring manager. So this was a kind of non-functional requirement which the BAs were not made to understand till then. But then from then on, what I've done is actually I created a separate template and made it sure that the whole processes are aligned in such a way that even BAs and the technical architect would actually work in tandem to identify what are the specific NFRs, the non-functional requirements. It could be, we'll talk about it slightly later. We'll talk about the usability requirement, accessibility, security requirements, performance, availability, interface. All of these are different non-functional requirements. So as BAs, we're not just talking only on the functionality stuff. We should address also the peripheral aspects of how that solution would actually work. And that's where all these things would be specified. And then we're talking about the specific low-level design and development. So we're talking about the class diagram specific aspects of, are you going to use any frameworks? Are you going to use any kind of MVC, for example, model view controller framework? Are you going to use an architecture like open architecture? What kind of APIs are you going to use? All of these specifications, again, we as BAs could actually help the team either to recommend and use, or we can actually kind of work with them to come up with what could be the best tooling that we can use. So we can also help them with the creation of wireframes. And we use a lot of different tools, different kind of applications that we use. OmniGraffle for Mac. I use Sketch, Balsamic for Windows. There are a lot of these different tools that you can try and use to create wireframe, just a rough look and feel to actually help the teams, the development team, to understand what the proposed solution would look like. Sometimes you can actually go a little further and create models. So I'm comfortable with the data modeling, so I can actually try and kind of give the data flow effect as well. Some BAs, as rightly mentioned by Uzma, they can actually go ahead, use the BPMN, the business process modeling notation, which is basically like a language used for defining the processes and workflows. They can use that to identify the processes, create the tasks, activities, and all those things. And then similarly, on the product side, you can use UML, Unified Modeling Language, as a tool to express your to express your understanding of the system in the way that the other team members and the stakeholders can understand. So you can create activity diagrams, class diagrams, VOPC diagrams, ER diagram, which is entity relationship model diagrams. You can create all of these. I mean, so it all really depends on what kind of a flavor, what kind of comfort level you have as a BA to be able to create those. There's no one size fits all, as we spoke, and Uzma did mention that. And then, of course, so we'll go into the system acceptance testing or functional testing. That's where we help the testers to be able to perform the testing, the QA. So we actually run all these different test cases that we wrote or the testers have written. So we would run the whole thing system, make sure that it's actually kind of adhering to this test cases, or the test cases failed, or if not, what kind of things or responses are we getting. We then take these reports, the defect reports, to the stakeholders. We say if it is a critical defect or a severe defect or showstopper, as we discussed, we'll then take some calls on that. And then we would make sure that it's the defects are prioritized, and then we're going to go ahead with that. So in terms of solution development, again, deployment. So this is where, again, we're deploying the solution. This could be multiple ways. Again, right now we are using some of the tools like DevOps have come in right now. Jenkins and the pipelines have come in right now. People are talking about these. So we are enabling the developers themselves, the development team themselves, to kind of deploy the solution without having to wait for infrastructure teams or somebody else. So the dependency on somebody else to deploy our application on the customer's premise, on the server, or on the customer's premises, or the cloud, for example, it's actually kind of, the dependency is almost gone now with DevOps and NoOps coming in. So again, that's where we're enabling the development team. We're giving them all the freedom and the kind of toolkit that they can use to deploy the solution, not just design, develop, and deploy it right then and then, so that it actually goes through the different environments, from production, from the development environment to the test environment, and then finally to the production. So it's all kind of pipelined quickly. So you don't have to wait 5-6 days. Now it's all about, you've got a build ready, then test it. Once it's good, deploy it straight away, and then the users and the customers can use it quickly. So that's, again, all of these could be depending on the release strategy and things like that. We can talk a little about it in the Agile course coming up next month. And then in terms of the benefits realization, so I was talking about, it's not just that you develop and deploy the solution, it's about what the customers and users feel about it. You need to get the feedback. You have to understand whether it's working or not, what kind of constraints it has, how can we improve that. So Agile is all about that. It's all about how we can keep working on that, keep improving and keep delivering. So it's all about that. It's not just about, okay, your product is done, it's ready, we deploy it, done. It's not like that. It's about delivering a particular product periodically, and you improve on that existing product, try and deliver more features, make it better. It's almost like your iPhone and the Android phones right now. There's no, I mean, you've got a base phone, the same phone. Are we still happy with what we have? No, we still keep improving. These guys still keep giving us so many features, so many different things. It could be simple change of UI, one more extra lens in the back. It could be as simple as that. Perhaps not much helpful for you and me, but then they're trying to do something different, something better according to them. And they're releasing a new product, a new version of the same product into the market. So similarly, whatever we do, we need to continue improving. That's where we as business analysts need to come in, because we can actually get to see the customer's perspective. We can get to understand and speak the lingo and communicate with the customers and with the users much better than actually if you compare it with developers, testers, or even the senior managers, because they're all within their own perspective. They're all interacting and working within their own limitations, whereas as BAs we got that additional I can say access to the outside world as much as inside. So you can actually kind of take the product, conduct some kind of user studies, understand how the product is performing. You can actually talk to some customers, do a kind of a focus group, and then get all the results back, and then kind of say, okay, these are the areas that we need to improve upon. So there is no end to the BA's involvement in a company. It's huge. It starts much before your project. If you see, this is where, if you say this is a project, if you see this, it starts a lot before the project. I mean, I can say at least a good 2-3 months in advance on an average, depending on the life cycle of the project. And then it even goes further than the project life cycle. Even the whole team gets disbanded because the development team is required to work on a different project, or there's a support team who are supporting working on the tickets to improve and all that stuff. But we as BAs can continue on the same particular product, and then work on the other one as well. Interestingly, my previous boss in one of the IT firms, he used to say that you BAs are like fighter pilots. So you go on kind of what we call as sorties. So you go on a sortie. We're like butterflies. We can't be right in one particular place and say that we have done that, that's it, we finished the job. We need to actually, at one point of time, I was actually working on 4 different projects in different stages of these projects. And one project was actually a complete greenfield project. The other project was a pre-sales, very early stage. Third project was something which was already developed and it's in the maintenance stage. So we're just kind of giving some support in terms of improving the features and getting the support and giving the support to the customer. And the fourth project was actually kind of a complete greenfield project, but it is not started. We are still in the resourcing stage. So we are like butterfly. We're like fighter pilot. Fighter pilots. We just kind of, as BAs, we need to kind of go on a sortie, go there, come back, and then kind of work in tandem with multiple different things, multiple different situations and scenarios and platforms and technology. So, and that's the reason why I was saying that the last time when we talk about the skills, it's not about how much of expert you are, how much of an expertise you have in a particular field, not the vertical thing. What matters is how much of breadth you have in terms of the overall exposure you have. So the mile wide and inch depth, the mile wide and inch deep is what matters as a BA initially. But as you go in, of course, you might have to actually get a little, deep dive and get to understand something more than others. But to start with, you can have that. That's why we are comparing that as a T curve, isn't it? So T-shaped